This is the Patriots Catch-22 podcast with Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
I'm Evan Lazar. Evan Lazar. Hello, everybody. Nailed it. Joined as always by our Barth. That's a bit. That's a match. No risk it, no biscuit.
22.
Here is Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
The safety class is terrible.
It's
bad.
not good. It's not.
It's terrible. Just say it's terrible. It's
okay.
It's terrible.
No.
It's terrible. Say it's terrible, Alex. It's terrible.
It's not great. It's I don't know what I was arguing against there.
It's not great.
It's not great.
It's one of the worst safety classes I've seen in a while.
The problem is there's like 4 really good safeties from a total of 2 schools, and
Correct.
then there's nobody else.
Correct. It's either the Alabama duo or it's the Illinois duo, and then there's nothing else.
Well, but okay, I think this is what my problem was at the time when you brought that up.
Yeah.
I think that Jordan Battle is one of the most slept-on players in this entire draft,
I do like
which
Battle a lot.
does not mean the safety class is not bad, but I will not let people disrespect Jordan Battle.
He's my safety too.
Same.
Brian Branch, Jordan Battle, Quan Martin, Jartavius Martin from Illinois.
Yeah. You like Martin better than Brown? Just overall, I like
yeah.
Martin better for the Patriots, but I think Brown's a better player in general.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Okay.
I just am sick of seeing box safeties that cover tight ends.
Exactly.
We got enough of those.
Exactly.
Let's get a more rangy guy like Jartavius. But
like teams are going to like Sidney Brown.
Yeah. Remember Jalen Petrie? Said this to Deuce earlier. Reminds me of Jalen Petrie.
People were really high on him around here. People loved
his
him.
Hair on fire. All right. Anyways, Evan Lazar, Alex Barth with you for the next hour or so, breaking down the draft. 1 week to go, Alex. It's hard to believe that we're 1 week out from the NFL draft. Right about now, probably take a little nap, wake up from that nap, start to get ready to come here for the draft party and the draft show on Thursday night. We're going to be on for the entire first round. You're going to get another real reaction from me live on air. Hopefully I'm contain myself a little bit better than I did last year.
Can't
but
wait.
Can't make any promises. And you know the rule, if they take a running back, I have bets to cash.
You do.
So I'm going to have to.
I think we don't tell people what it is. Do you want to tell people what it is?
No, we don't
All right,
tell people.
You'll find out that night if they do.
Anyways, so today we're going to talk about some news here off the top of the show. We got a little breaking news, Patriots action, and then we also got some news this morning that I find very, very fascinating and interesting that Alex and I disagree on. So it's going to be a fun topic, and then we're going to read some tea leaves. I want to read some tea leaves. Going to read some tea leaves from Matt Groh the other day in his press conference with the media. Look way too much into everything that he said and really dive into see what we can glean from all of that from a Patriots point of view. So that's what's on the agenda. 855-PATS-500 is the phone number. We'll get to some of these calls that are already on the screen now here in a second, but I want to get to the news first off the top of the show. And let's do the most immediate news, and that is that apparently, according to Eagles beat writers, Matt Patricia has popped up on the Eagles team website as a defensive assistant. So Matt Patricia is now going to be a member of the Philadelphia Eagles coaching staff, meaning he is no longer a member of the New England Patriots coaching staff.
There are people digging here.
Yes.
Zach Cox found this from Nesson. So Tim McManus, who's the Eagles reporter for ESPN, said, according to the team's website, Matt Patricia has been named the team's senior defensive assistant. Zach Cox has pulled up both the Eagles team coaching page and their announcement of new hires, and Matt Patricia is not mentioned. So we're still trying to find where on the website. Maybe that offers some clarity, but it looks as though potentially.
Maybe they jumped the gun and they published it and they weren't supposed to publish it yet.
Maybe that happens.
Yeah, that could be it. I say this in all sincerity, and I know you're before the show. I'm not going to say what you were doing, but you're celebrating a little bit, Alex, that Matt Patricia is no longer here. I say this with all sincerity, though. He was dealt a really crappy hand.
He
last
was.
year.
No, it wasn't entirely his fault. He was put in a position that he simply was not able to handle.
Right.
But that's not on him.
I will say this though about it. I use this analogy when Fred actually said the same thing right after the season, that we shouldn't be ragging on Matt Patricia because of the position he was put in. And my response was, Fred, if you said to me, Evan, we're short a videographer this week, can you go down on the sideline and hold a camera? I would say, I am not the right person for that job, Fred. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing with the camera. Like, why would I be doing that? Versus our video guys would not be coming up and writing post for Patriots.com.
Bradley could if it was the draft. Bradley could if it was the draft.
Very fair. But that's what my point is that at some point, I do think that Patricia has to take a little bit of ownership, right?
Yeah.
And say,
yeah.
I'm not an offensive coach, and this is not. I don't have the chops to do this. But at the same time, for the 90% of it is put into a bad spot. 10% of it is that.
The other interesting thing is people on in our YouTube chat have pointed out, and people online have pointed out. How do you think Darius Slay's doing right now?
He'll get over it. I think the biggest thing is for the Patriots, though, we know that Joe Judge is going to be here in some capacity. I do think that this gets into their contracts with their former employers. I believe Patricia's was up, right, with the Detroit Lions. So now he has to make real money.
Right.
And the Patriots can't do that thing where the other team is paying a salary for them. So in that respect, the time had come to either sign Patricia up as an actual coach or move on. And they've decided to move on. Is it a good thing, though? Like, do you feel some clean slate, right? Like what Bill O'Brien said the other day, like, is there some washing of the hands going on here now that Patricia is no longer in the building? I still think that he could have been fine in that football advisor role that it sounds like Joe Judge is in now, but I think that they could put Joe Judge in that role and he's still getting paid by the Giants, so that makes it all the easier thing in the world.
I think there is certainly a clean washing of the hands. I don't know. At the owners' meetings, Bill was asked, right, is he going to have a role? And Bill said, we don't know yet. So that made it sound like he might be back.
Yeah.
But
I think it was on the table. I do. I think that he would have been back on the defensive side of the ball, probably as some sort of football advisor type of role that would have kept him completely out of the public eye. Wouldn't have had to do assistant coach availability with us, wouldn't be on the sideline, or be in the press box during games or the coach's box during games. So I think there would have been a role for him, but it would have been completely in the back.
So Tim McManus, who had that original report, has followed it up and said the blurb on Patricia has since been deleted.
So they jumped the gun. They jumped
Interesting.
the gun. It happens.
Interesting.
It happens. Chris Ferreira would never. But it does happen. So I think that there's interesting. It's interesting. I think that that's the right path for Patricia, though, is to get back on the defensive side of the football, get back to his roots, defensive line, linebacker, that sort of thing, and try to rehabilitate his career that way. You're not going to do it on the offensive side of the ball. But that's interesting news. It's not that fun. I'm not that interested in it, to be honest with you, but it's news.
Well, now that it's apparently not news, it's been deleted. Who knows?
Forget that first 10 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
Irrelevant. The more exciting news that I'm glad we can get into this in this forum about this is that the Patriots, Alex, hosted Will Levis, the quarterback from Kentucky, on a visit, 30 visit, according to Ian Rappaport. I think that might be going on right now. Might be going on today. So there. It
was yesterday.
Yesterday. Yeah. So there's a couple of different angles. One, they are doing their due diligence on quarterbacks because they're not sold on their own quarterback. Two, they're doing due diligence on a quarterback that they might face down the road.
Yeah.
Trying to pick his brain a little bit and see what he's made of. Three, I guess maybe there's a scenario there where it's a trade up situation for another team or a trade down, like there's some sort of involvement there, or maybe it's just that thing where they're trying to get intel on other players, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a million different reasons why they could be bringing Will Levis in. For the sake of argument's sake, to be honest, I'm going to say it's none of those things. I'm going to say that the Patriots have real interest in Will Levis, potentially, because every single thing that we have heard from the coaching staff, and mainly the head coach, from this end of last season on, has not exactly been ringing endorsements for Mac Jones. And if you're at that position, and I'm not saying it's as bad as this, but just a comparison, the Arizona Cardinals drafted Josh Rosen in the first round. The very next year, drafted Kyler Murray, number 1 overall.
How'd that work?
Well, Kyler's a pretty good quarterback.
Is he?
I'd take Kyler.
Is he?
Yeah.
How often does he play, Evan?
Okay, well, yeah.
Where's that team picking again this year?
I'd take Kyler.
Where's that team picking?
I'd take Kyler.
Where are they picking again? No, I think this is, one, I think there's that, get information on a guy you're going to face kind of thing. I also think there's an element of, if you want Will Levis, other teams,
yes,
you're going to have to either pick him ahead of us, trade up and pick him ahead of us,
or trade for our pick,
or call us because
right.
we might. And either one's beneficial to the Patriots because
yeah.
Will Levis going before the 14th pick is one less tackle or one less corner or one less. I'm not even going to say receiver. Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah.
That
one less JSN.
Right. That a team isn't taking. Right. So
right.
I think there's value in that. For them to be, and now let's remember, he's not the only.
Your theory is essentially smokescreen.
That's smoke screen with some intel. We might face this guy. Let's find out. He grew up a fan. It's a cool story. I don't think they actually care about that, but
they don't.
There's a good picture of him at training camp in 2004. But the point being, and he's not the only top quarterback they've met with. They met with Anthony Richardson as well at the Combine. And let's remember, Matt Groh said on Tuesday, we've been doing due diligence on quarterbacks since Tom Brady was here.
Right.
They met with, and this isn't like 2017, 2018, one foot out the door, Tom Brady. They were meeting with quarterbacks
all throughout the Brady years.
Ryan Mallett was a projected first-round pick at one point, and they met with him before the. That's right. They met with him before the draft. For them to draft Will Levis too, and look, they've broken some trends in recent years. I will totally admit that. For them to draft Will Levis as like a guy, would be throwing out every single thing we know about what they believe in the quarterback position. And not just Bill, because people will say, oh, well, Bill's views are dated and this and that. There was this great, I got to find the tweet.
Bill O'Brien stuff.
The 3 things Bill O'Brien looks for in a quarterback. And it was basically, does he know what he's looking at the line of scrimmage?
Yeah.
Right?
I think Will Levis does.
I don't think so.
Okay.
You think so?
I do.
How well does he handle pressure?
Yeah, okay.
And does he not turn the ball over? Which that's the big one to me. Will Levis's touchdown interception ratio at Kentucky is 43-25. That's well under 2-1. He turns, and that's in not a lot of pass attempts. He threw the ball as much in 2 years as some of these other top quarterbacks did in 1. They did not throw the ball. This is a guy who is not experienced. This is a guy who panics under pressure, and this is a guy that is not accurate with the football and makes bad decisions. When I hear people get all hot and bothered about Will Levis, what I hear is, look at him. He's running around. Ooh, look, he's running away from defenders. Oh, look how far he threw the ball. Who caught it? It's not important. Look how far the ball went.
I knew you were going to do this.
He's an overcorrection to Josh Allen. And this is, the NFL's a copycat league. Teams see what happened with Josh Allen, and they're like, we want to get our Josh Allen. But the reality is, for every Josh Allen, you are going to get 20 Zach Wilsons. If every quarterback that looks like Josh Allen coming out turned into Josh Allen, nobody would draft quarterbacks because all 32 teams would have a superstar right now. That's the reality of it. The work it took to turn Josh Allen into Josh Allen, both from Allen himself and the Bills coaching staff and the Bills front office, is massive. So if you're going to draft Will Levis, you'd better be in an environment that's nurturing to developing quarterbacks. How exactly has that gone around here, Evan?
Okay, that point right there, I agree with you 110%.
And let me just add one more thing.
Yes.
People will hear that and come back at me and say, well, you like Anthony Richardson, and Anthony Richardson is also a project. Yeah. Yes, Anthony Richardson is also a project, but when you're looking at these project guys, you're looking at flashes. Right? How often does he look like what you think he's going to look like at his ceiling? There are a lot more flashes with Anthony Richardson than there are with Will Levis. The other thing is Richardson's younger. There's more physical upside. I think he's more physically gifted.
Anthony Richardson's a better prospect than Will Levis. He is.
Look, I love when Will Levis first came on my radar 2 years ago when he first got to Kentucky. And I saw him and I said, I love this guy. I cannot wait for the Patriots to draft Will Levis in the 4th round and turn him into Taysom Hill. Now, he's developed a bit more as a passer since then, but not much. Evan,
I think he has developed a lot, and I think that's so.
Who's your comp
for Will Levis?
Yeah, and I want you to use the same comp we used when we were texting about this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Carson Wentz.
Where's he?
So,
Where's he? Where is he?
I understand where he is, but here's my thing. Just let me. We all know where Carson Wentz is. All right, he's on his couch like the rest.
He's not in the USFL. He's not in the XFL.
So
can't crack that.
Here's my thing with Will Levis. You mentioned the mental makeup of the player.
Yeah.
Does he have the drive? Does he have the focus, the attention to detail, and the want to? Just the drive, the want to be great. Because he has all of the physical tools that you could ever ask for in a quarterback. Snappy, quick release, excellent arm
You
talent.
like his release? His release isn't consistent. Again, when he has it down, it looks good, but
his release is pretty damn quick.
Not consistently.
Just
okay.
I know you don't. I know you don't like him. All right. Let me play the other side of the coin here for a second. The things that I see with Will Levis, there's one big thing that you need to have as a quarterback for me to buy in, and Anthony Richardson has it too.
Yeah.
Do you understand the optics of the quarterback position, or are you just an athlete playing quarterback? Are your eyes in the right place? Are your cadences correct? Is your throwing motion clean, right? Or do you have hitches, or do you have weird stuff going on with your throwing motion? And that is like above the waist throwing motion. Right. Not talking about feet, just your actual motion itself. If Tim Tebow was an athlete playing quarterback, right? Anthony Richardson and Will Levis are quarterbacks who are athletes.
I don't know that about Levis. I think there are places Levis can go and succeed. I'm not saying he's not an NFL quarterback, but to me, he's got to be in a Shanahan system that's paint by number, is going to let him use his legs, not just as a runner, but also in the passing game.
That's fair.
I just don't think in what we believe now maybe Bill O'Brien's going to do something he's never done before.
Yeah. But here's the other thing, right? Along those lines, couldn't you see Bill Belichick, after 2 years with Mac Jones, saying, I thought that we could get back to where we were with league average, but I've lived league average now for 2 years, and I don't think that anymore. And now I think that there needs to be more upside at that position if we're going to get to where we want to get to.
I don't think so.
You don't think that any part of him looks around the league and sees
let me
Pat Mahomes,
rephrase
and
that.
Allen and Hurts and all these other athletes at the position, and he says, but we can still win with a Mac Jones type.
That would be, to me, a misdiagnosis or an incomplete diagnosis, because the issues, and we've done, how many times we had this conversation?
Right.
The issues go so far beyond whether or not Mac Jones is athletic. He's got pass rushers in his lap when the ball is snapped. He's got receivers that can't get open. He's got receivers that, when they do manage to get open, run into each other because of how the plays are designed.
Yeah,
If you just take Will Levis and put him in this offense, he's still going to have pass rushers in his lap, but he's not a guy that handles that well. I don't care how well he can run around. He's not going to have anybody blocking for him. He's not going to have guys to throw the football to. That's not the fix. It's not an instant fix. And then maybe you have a different kind of quarterback, but you're still more or less back where you were last year, where even if he works out, who's blocking for him? Who's he throwing the football to?
So I think that the things I like about Will Levis, and I went into his film expecting to hate him and expecting him to be, I wasn't super high, not to toot my own horn, but I wasn't super high on Zach Wilson either.
Right.
And I went into it thinking that I would think he was Zach Wilson and all this stuff. What I came away with thinking was, he has fixable issues.
Some of them.
I think the main issue that he has with his game that is extremely fixable is that his footwork is completely erratic and makes zero sense. There are times where he's in a clean pocket, he's trying to hit a 5-yard layup, like a hitch or a slant for 5 yards, and he's throwing from wonky platforms and just messing around back there. And you're just like, what are you doing, dude? Right? Like, why? It's a layup, right? And you got to hit the layups. So I see throws like that, and I'm like, all right, that's got to go in the NFL. If he's going to succeed in the NFL, he's got to be more consistent from the pocket. I think that we have enough proof now with guys like Josh Allen, like Mahomes, like to a degree with people like Hurts, that lower body mechanics and footwork can be taught, can be coached, can be drilled, can be taught. Because nowadays you get all the coaching you get in season, during camp, during OTAs and mini camps, and then you got the Quincy Averys and the Jordan Palmers and the Tom Houses of the world too that work with these guys around the clock also. So I think that footwork and mechanics can be taught. The other thing that I think that I see with Levis is goes back to the processing and seeing things and things like. I think that more times than not, his eyes go to the right places, and that to me is a baseline fundamental trait for a quarterback. If you are looking all over the place and you're going like this and you're just not seeing it, then I can't deal with that.
I don't think he sees it that way, especially when he deals with pressure. That's the big thing to me.
So
I keep coming back.
His issues with pressure.
That's not always coachable. And you mentioned Mahomes, you mentioned Allen, you mentioned Hurts. What do those three guys have in common? They could have a clean pocket. They could have two hands in their face. It doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
Levis is so far from, and that's part of this. Again, you're not just talking. I'm not just having this conversation in the context of Will Levis, the prospect. I'm having this conversation in the context of you're drafting Will Levis, trading Mac Jones, and making him the starter. He's not a year one guy. He's not. And you're going to put him in an immense pressure situation behind a not put together offensive line.
It's fair. It's all fair. I just think that the two things that I come back to are, for example, his interceptions. His interception numbers are not great, but he threw an interception against Georgia where he tried to fit a ball into the cover 2 hole along the sideline. That was there, but Keely Ringo just jumped it and made a really good play on it for an interception. Now,
so I would say go back. How many of his like big completions are wide receivers making absurd plays? Because there's a lot of them.
When we get to the NFL, I think that Josh Allen, as much of a cannon as Josh Allen has, I think that he and Mahomes and some of these other guys had to learn a little bit too. You can't hit every single throw. And the throw that he tried to hit in the honey hole to down the sideline against Georgia was one of those throws that, it flashed open for a second, like it was there, but against a defense like Georgia, that thing closes a lot faster than
against an NFL defense.
So you got to learn how to harness it. You got to learn when to use it and when to fold, right? That's a big thing about quarterbacks like that think that they can make every throw on the planet because they have that level of arm talent. The stuff under pressure, I think the biggest concern that I have with him under pressure is that he should have better escapability in the pocket than he does, because he's a good athlete and he can run. When he decides to tuck it and run, he can run. But he does not have that innate feel for rushers around him, and he's a little bit of a statue, even though he's not a statue.
Right.
So can you fix that? In theory, he's got the tools to fix it. But is that ever going to come natural to him where he's got that sixth sense and he's got that eyes on the back of his head to just feel it coming and get out of it? That will be the biggest hurdle that he has to clear in the NFL.
I just think, so here's a number that keeps standing out to me, and this is from Daniel Jeremiah on NFL.com. You know, nearly a quarter of his passes in his career were thrown behind the line of scrimmage. That Tennessee offense is really unique. It's a run-heavy, screen-heavy offense. And then when they suck you in, they throw deep down the field. There's no intermediate. Right. There's very little short game.
Yeah.
It's all behind the line of scrimmage.
There's RPO.
There is RPO.
Yeah.
But the point being, like, this is a guy that really hasn't done a lot. He's very raw.
He's raw.
And I just think he needs, I go back to the Shanahan thing. If you put him in a quarterback-friendly offense, you're going to be able to maximize his physical tools. But this is, when we talk about New England, an offensive coordinator who generally, and again, he could come in and do something completely different, but do we really think he's going to do that? A quarterback-heavy impact offense, and they don't exactly have the most quarterback-friendly wide receivers. That doesn't mean they're not good, but they don't play a quarterback-friendly style of football, whereas like Jacoby Myers was their quarterback-friendly wide receiver. Right? So you're taking this guy that needs a lot of help around, can be good, needs a lot of help around him, and you're putting him in a place where he's not going to have that. Didn't we just do this? And I've said it before, I'll say it again. If maybe Mac's not the guy. Maybe he's not. I am totally open to that possibility. I would so much rather find out whether or not that's true this year and then go get a guy next year than burn the 14th pick. Because I'll tell you this, if they use the 14th pick on Will Levis this year, and I'm right about him, we're going to be kicking ourselves next year when they can't draft Drake May, or they can't draft Michael Penix, or they can't draft KJ Jefferson. Will Levis in next year's class is QB like 6 or 7.
Okay, so this is the final thing I'll say on Will Levis, and we can move on.
Yeah.
All I'm saying to you about this meeting with Will Levis is that, and I don't mean getting to know him in terms of all the other smokescreen or future, bringing him in for a visit is the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Because
I don't disagree with that.
If he comes into this building and he says he's just oozing with that intangible it factor and that quality of I am going to work my butt off to be great, then you have to entertain the idea. You have to think about it, because if this guy is going to put in the work, like Josh Allen put in the work, like other guys in that mold have put in the work to fix their flaws that are fixable and be great, then he has such a higher ceiling than what you're working with now that you have to at least have the conversation. And you can't have the conversation until you get to know the kid.
Okay, but you talk about high ceiling. What are you doing to maximize that ceiling?
Ultimately, maybe the conversation ends. Like maybe you and the Bills, right? Bill O'Brien and Bill Belichick and Matt Groh and Elliott Wolf and Cam Williams sit down at the table and they say, it's an enticing proposition. He's got really enticing tools, but we all agree that it's not the answer.
Right.
Maybe that's all it is, but you owe it to yourself and you owe it to the football team to have every single option to upgrade on the table, and that includes at the quarterback position.
Absolutely. I'm not saying that's not true. I'm just saying my guess would be the result of that meeting is there's not enough there for them to say we're going to change the entire because let's
I hear you.
What are we talking about here? We're talking about changing the entire direction of the organization.
Yes.
Okay. The guys you have on the 1- and 2-year contracts from Andre Stevenson, Kyle Duggar, Matthew Judon, those guys are now no longer signed through your contending window. You could re-sign them, but that becomes another now they become potential trade piece because again, you have to put more around Will Levis. You're talking about a reset. Robert Kraft at the owners' meetings said it is very important that the Patriots make the playoffs this year. Drafting Will Levis is making the playoffs in 2025 and 2026,
but you have to,
not in 2023.
The other side of it, other than what I just laid out about doing the due diligence, is that if you truly do not believe that Mac Jones is the guy, then even more reason to do all the homework on the quarterbacks that could be in your range this year.
Yeah, again, I just think...
Because I don't think that you're going to be picking any higher next year, right? If Mac Jones is your quarterback again this year, even if you have another bad season, you're still going to be picking in the teens. You're not going to be picking in the top 10.
I don't know about that.
You're not going to be picking in the top 10. You're not. They didn't pick in the top 10 in 2020 with Cam Newton in a COVID roster. As long as Bill Belichick is here, and now they have Bill O'Brien on the offensive side of the ball, the best case scenario is probably picking at like 12, 13, 14. And I say best, it's really worst, but like, you know what I mean?
I just think with what you have right now offensively, there's not enough to evaluate in that offense if Mac Jones or Will Levis or anybody is the guy.
I'm not evaluating the offense. I'm evaluating Will Levis. And I'm saying if this guy's got the drive and he's got the hunger, and I think that's one interesting thing about his background is that
you don't think Mac Jones has the hunger? You don't think Mac Jones has the drive?
I do, but he doesn't have the physical tools that Will Levis has.
All right, well, he's also a much better pure passer than Will Levis is. And
but
at the end of the day,
that's the interesting thing to me.
I know we all like seeing quarterbacks run around. At the end of the day, quarterback needs to throw. Josh Allen, who everybody loves because, look at him go. Oh, my God. Josh Allen said
in the league
this week, and what did he say this week? Even as a top 5 quarterback, he needs to be more of a passer in less than that. Yes,
but you
having quarterbacks that can run around is fun.
You have to find out. You have to do the homework, and you have to find out, does this guy have it between the ears? Does he have that moxie? Does he have that drive? Does he have that want to be great? Because he's a better physical athlete, a better physical specimen than the guy you have.
Again, he runs around. Fun.
Every quarterback besides yours runs around now.
Josh Allen told you he needs to be more of a passer and less than an athlete.
He can't go out there and run over 220-pound safeties anymore.
If your golden boy If your golden boy telling you this is the truth won't get it through to you, then I don't know. But that position at the end of the day
it's not just
about
him.
passing more than anything else. It's about
what
throwing the football
passer
more
is
than
succeeding?
anything else.
What non-mobile pocket passer in today's NFL is succeeding? Name one. Joe Burrow?
Joe Burrow.
But Burrow is still more mobile than Mac.
Is he by like that much? Is
not
he really?
Not a ton, but he's still.
Also,
still is.
Again,
Joe Burrow is the one example of a guy that isn't physically ridiculously gifted in terms of his mobility.
What about I don't know what your definition on succeeding is, but a top 10 offense? If I give you a top 10 offense?
If you're going to say Kirk Cousins?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Where do you think this offense would be with Kirk Cousins right now?
Well, if they also had Justin Jefferson, pretty good.
Okay, well, but they don't also have Justin
but that's
Jefferson.
my point. Maybe go get that guy that maximizes the quarterback instead of diving back into the quarterback carousel and hit the reset button.
Okay, all I said to you was this, and this is a total cop-out answer on my part to a degree, but what I saw on film from Will Levis is at least enough to bring him in for the
I don't disagree.
Visit.
I don't disagree,
That's
but I'm saying...
Because I can't make... Guys like Will Levis are hard for me because I don't know what his mental makeup is. I don't know the Will Levis. I've never met him before. I've never talked to him before. I don't have the ability to call him in for a 30 visit with yours truly in the Patriots Catch-22 podcast and getting to know Will Levis as a person. And does he have that wake up at 6 a.m., go to bed at 8 p.m., and in the 14 hours that I'm awake, it's football,
but if
football,
that's all
football,
you
football.
want, if that's all you want, we know Mac Jones checks that box.
Yeah, that's not all I want.
Okay, but
Mac Jones checks all those boxes with what is admittedly a middling physical skill set. That's just a fact.
Will Levis has nothing that caps him. The turnovers don't worry you at all.
I didn't say that. I said that I think that a lot of the things that Will Levis does is fixable. And if he has the drive to be great, he will fix them.
Whoever's at quarterback in this offense needs more than what's currently there.
Yeah, no doubt.
They don't need second and third round picks. They need a top 20 talent to help unlock the offense.
I don't disagree. All right.
So how about, I'm just saying, I'd rather go get the guy that helps the offense than hit the reset button.
That's fair. And maybe that is the evaluation that I would come to, too, if I got Will Levis on a whiteboard or if I ask Will Levis, hey, Will, after this, like, where are you going? Like, what are you doing, tomorrow?
Right.
What are you doing tomorrow, Will? And he says to me, oh, yeah, me and my buddies got a trip to Vegas planned. It's going to be great. I'd be like, okay. But if he says to me, oh, yeah, I'm going out to California because for the next month I'm going to be training with Jordan Palmer, I'm going to be like, okay, this guy might get it, right? And if I put him up on the whiteboard and he's breaking down Haas Juke and he knows all of his reads, he knows where to go with the football, I'm going to say, okay, that's impressive. So now we have the drive, we have mental makeup, and we already know on film that he's got the physical.
What I would do is call Matthew Judon, Josh Uche, Christian Barmore, and have them come in the meeting and get all in his face and then see if he can still break it down.
All right.
Because it's a long way. His issues, I'm not saying are on the way. His issues, it's on tape. You're not going to sort it out in a meeting. He can't turn the ball over in a meeting.
Oh.
If he does, we very much have our answer.
Okay.
If he manages to do that.
All right, let's get to some of these phones and then we'll talk some Matt Groh. Matthew in Texas, thanks for hanging on, Matthew. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Hey.
Good, thanks.
So I want Zay Flowers, and obviously because this is wide receiver, and we don't have any wide receivers right now. And I heard a comp the other day for him, and I wanted to know what your guys' comp for him was. And the comp that I had heard was Antonio Brown, and when I heard that, I mean, who wouldn't want that? Without all the off-field issues, and I guess just your guys' opinion as to like who he is most similar to in the NFL.
Sure. So, thanks for the call, Matthew. I've heard Antonio Brown for Zay Flowers too.
You might have started that.
Did I? I heard Antonio Brown for Zay Flowers too. I've mentioned it as a ceiling, like hits it 10 out of 10 jackpot, right?
Right.
Type of comp for him. There are similarities to the ways the two guys move on a football field, just in terms of the explosiveness, the routes that they run, things like that. He's not going to be Antonio Brown. And this is the one thing that I don't like about player comparisons is I feel like just because you compare a guy to a player, that automatically means that in 10 years their resume is going to look exactly like that the player you compared him to.
Right.
When I do player comparisons, I'm just telling you how the guy plays. How does he win on an NFL football field? That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a 10,000 career receiving yards Antonio Brown level talent. No one thinks that. I think a more realistic comp, and I use this one on my big board for Patriots fans, I think this is relatable. I see a lot of Deion Branch to his game.
Yeah, I like that one.
And
like
Deion Branch and him are very similar sizes. They're very similar 40 times, and they have a similar skill set. But I would also just mention with the Deion comp, you got to think about Deion Branch in today's NFL.
Right.
Not how the Patriots used him in 2004.
He was probably a little ahead of his time.
Right. Now he would be playing in these spread offenses out of the slot and running routes all over the place. He'd be used a little bit differently. So I like Deion Branch. I like Antonio Brown if you want to have fun with it and care to dream. But the Zay Flowers thing is really fascinating because we've heard a lot about it out there, Alex, about how this is not a good receiver class and there's no first-round talents. And I've pushed back on it, but whatever. With Zay, I'm even more sold on Zay than I was a couple weeks ago because of one reason. The Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs just sent Zay Flowers to throw with Patrick Mahomes in a private workout yesterday. If you are now telling me that Andy Reid sees it with Zay Flowers also, and Brett Veach sees it with Zay Flowers also, you better take that guy at 14.
Or are they telling you that they think he's like a 30th pick and not a 14th pick? I'm kidding. No, you're right.
You're right that they might think that. And that's
but here's the they trade up as much as any team.
Exactly. They traded with the Patriots last year in
recent years. They like moving up. I'm with you. Let's see what I want to know what the Steelers think. Right, they're the ultimate authority on this. But you're right.
I'm beginning to think that the Chiefs deserve a spot at the table and the ultimate authority for anything offense.
You're not wrong.
If Andy Reid sides off on a player, then I am now sold. Whether it was Zay Flowers, Josh Downs, Jordan Addison, whoever. The fact that they specifically picked Zay out of this entire group they liked him so much that they sent him to go meet with the quarterback already.
Right.
That tells me right then and there that this kid is as good as I think he is. So at this point, I understand that 14 is too high for some people. If you want to get into the conversation of trading down to like maybe 20 or 19 or something like that, just to make you all feel a little bit better that you're not reaching on the player, then fine, if that's what you have to do. But at this point, I think you got to be awfully careful because I think that there's a lot of teams in that 25 to 32 range, Buffalo, Kansas City, that they're going to be knocking on the door for that guy. I think Buffalo would take Zay Flowers in a heartbeat if he was there at I think they're 26 or something like that.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat if he was there. And do you want to play him twice a year or do you want to have him on your team? You got to ask yourself that question.
Right.
All right. Sean in Vancouver. What's up, Sean?
Hey, guys. A few things. I really believe that you got to get Jersey Mike's as a sponsor for
Hell yeah.
this
that.
particular podcast and PU because I even tried it when I was down in Florida. We don't have it here in Vancouver, and it was good. So this is their target market. The other thing I wanted to ask Alex is about the punter, Michael Turk. Is he really good at kickoffs as well? Because that's something else the Patriots need. Even if they don't get a new kicker, they're definitely going to need someone to do kickoffs.
Yeah,
And,
all the punters in this draft have kickoff experience, but it's a good question. It's a good point.
Okay. The last thing I want to say is about my preference in the draft. Now, I don't see the Patriots as being a real contender in 2023. Maybe at best they'll make the playoffs and lose in the first round, but they're not. serious for Super Bowl no matter what they do. So what I really want to see overall is what we have in Mac Jones. So I want to make sure that he has the weapon. So I know they need a top big corner. That's important in terms of their needs, but they also need a starting tackle, and they need a number one wide receiver. So and when it comes down to who they're going to get in the first couple rounds, I really like to get a starting tackle and say Zay Flowers over someone like Porter or another corner who might be there. And that's it.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that's a great point. Exactly what he just said. Figure out if Mac Jones is the guy or not. Don't think around with these other quarterbacks or project picks or whatever. Do what you can to maximize the quarterback position, because one of two things is going to happen. Either A, you find out that when you actually support Mac Jones, he's pretty good, and then you're set, you're off and running. Or two,
Right.
you give him all the support, he's still not good. All right, it was a bad pick, you move on. You get to dip back in what is a much, much better quarterback class next year. And then guess
Don't
what?
do that. Don't do that. You don't know.
Eh,
You don't know. A
And
year
then-
from now, a lot of things can change.
you dip back into what's a better quarterback class next year, and then that guy comes in, and guess what? He has starting tackles around him, or he has a
no,
number
that's
one
fair.
wide receiver, or if I'm really lucky, he has Jerry Jeudy to throw him the football.
You're not that lucky.
I know I'm not that.
Yeah, no, you're that's fair.
But-
I think that the one thing I would push back though on is I like a lot of these tackles. I would be if they took Broderick Jones or Paris Johnson.
Yeah.
I'm not going to knock them for it. How much does it really make them better?
Well-
Because if you draft one of those corners, and let's say my dream scenario happens and Christian
Yeah.
Gonzalez is there at 14, and you draft Christian Gonzalez, if you draft one of those corners and it has like a Sauce Gardner level impact on your defense,
Yeah, which Matt Groh says it will.
right, we're going to get to that. Then at that point, the Jets were 3 wins better last year than they were the year before, with their quarterback situation being maybe the worst in the league.
Yeah.
Because they had a dominant defense. So at that point, you can't rule out corner to me.
Hang on. Whoa, hang on.
So
hang
I'm
on.
really kind of on corner and
hang on,
receiver
hang
at
on.
this point.
Do you remember that big argument we had
I know.
like 2-3 weeks ago
I
where
know.
I said I
You
thought they
swayed
were going
me.
to take corner, and you said you got to get somebody who helps the passing game no matter what, has a corner
Yeah.
help you beat Buffalo?
Yeah, I know.
So you're off that now.
I just don't know.
Our big seminal draft argument, you're off that.
I don't know how.
Tune back in 3 weeks when Evans says Will Levis is not an NFL quarterback.
I don't know. I don't know how much Deuce always says that offensive linemen are like tires on a car. It's not it's not sexy, it's not the
Yeah.
engine, it's not the sexy thing, but you need them to get where you want to go. I just don't know how many more tires they can really throw on this car.
So here's what you have to
they don't need a tire. They need a 500 horsepower Hemi.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Here's what I'd say though. I get so you really like Calvin Anderson. Or I don't know if you change your mind.
No, I like him as a play. I don't think that he's the savior, but
Okay,
yeah.
but my point is Trent Brown playing 17 games?
Yeah,
Right. And
Riley Reef.
Right, and Riley Reef. So
it's
it's if Trent Brown was still the guy he'd been, and we feel really good about maybe Connor McDermott. I get that hesitancy, but now I am making your argument back to you.
Yeah.
How
What's
are
going
you
on
going to
here?
throw the ball if
you
you can't get it blocked on
It's
the
fair.
edge, right?
It's
So
fair.
by the way, just to refresh where I was then and where I still am now,
Yeah.
I would take a tackle if for no other reason than I'd take Christian Gonzalez at 14.
Yeah.
Above all else, he's not going to be there. He's
Okay.
not.
That's
okay.
fair.
After him, I would take a tackle because I think the drop in talent from the first round to
Yeah.
the second round of tackle is
Yep.
more than at corner. That being said, historical trends and now what Matt Groh said earlier this week, to me, points more towards corner. So I'm expecting them to go corner,
Yeah.
but I think they go tackle. Now, maybe also Matt Groh thinks Paris Johnson, Broderick Jones will both be gone, and they don't like Skoronski's arm length, and they're just resigned to that fact. But
Right. So
the tea
question
leaves
is,
tell us corner, but I still think tackle makes more sense. Not that I'd be upset with the corner.
the other argument, I guess, to wrap it up, is how confident are you in let's say they give Dante Scarnecchia a list of 5 day 3 tackles, and they say, Scar, pick us the next Mike Onwenu out of the group. Maybe.
I don't know, day 3, just this class isn't very deep.
It's not that good. I
Can we do that on day 2? Because I feel better about that on day 2.
I wonder if you can get that respectable tackle, professional tackle play a little bit later that maybe won't be that. He's not going to be Trent Williams.
Right.
But he's going to be fine and move the pendulum a little bit more with the receiver or the corner.
I think that's what they're going to do. I think that's going to be their mindset. Take a corner in the first round. Then maybe even double up. Like Blake Freeland, Wanya Morris, you got 2 shots at it.
Right.
But I think either way, first round, you're going to get a guy who's a plug-and-play starter, whether it's a tackle at corner. But the difference is the second-round corners are also kind of plug-and-play starters. This class is that good. At least some of them are.
It is.
Whereas the second-round tackles, the day 2 tackles, no, those guys are going to need at least a couple of weeks.
I don't even know if it's necessarily development. I think that a lot of those guys might just be career swing tackles.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's, yeah.
You know, like I don't know if, my guy from Old Dominion is Nick Saldiveri is ever going to really be a starting NFL tackle.
For the record, I'm considering DeJuan Jones a first-round pick in this conversation.
All right. Patty, what's up, Patty?
What's up, guys?
Hey.
So I'll tell you what, last year, Trent McDuffie was one of my draft crushes. And when we traded with KC and they took him at 21, I was pretty pissed off. If we trade with KC out of number 14 and they take Zay Flowers, or if they take Will Levis at 14, Evan, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to be drunk draft night. That's number one. And I am going to call the show hammered like I do usually every year.
Uh-oh.
I might get the permanent 86 if that happens. But I want it. I'm going to say it now. I'm going to say it next Thursday. I'll say it next Tuesday. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. I want Zay at number 14. And Alex, I get your argument with the juxtaposition with Jerry Jeudy and how it's, you're going to have him under team control for at least another couple of years, especially if you pick up the 5th-year option. But, I mean, if they're comparable guys, which the big difference is Judy's proved that he can play in the league. And regardless of what happened his first year, how many drops he has, he's progressed. He's gotten better. My big thing with Flowers is if you take him at 14 with that first pick, you have him at least under team control for 4 years, 5 years if you feel like he's good enough and you want to pay him, even if you don't sign him to a long-term extension. And at least for like year 3 and year 4 of Mac Jones, you get a better understanding of where he is as a quarterback. And that's all I got. Talk to you guys next week.
Thanks,
yeah,
Patty.
I
don't
would
have to sell me on Zay Flowers.
I would just say to that last point
too.
there, with Jerry Jeudy, I would argue you get a better understanding of Mac Jones than you do with Zay Flowers because exactly what he hit on.
Yeah.
Jerry Judy's proven he can do it in this league, and that's why I'm so high on that move because they struggled with guys who haven't proven it yet. So, look,
Just draft Zay Flowers. Just
Okay.
make us all happy for once.
The gap has closed to me. Get ready for Jordan Addison. The gap has closed to me
I'd still be kind of happy.
between Zay and Jerry. Like, I'm not going to be upset if they take Zay. I would rather have Jerry Jeudy, but if it's Zay Flowers at 14, not my ideal draft, but like I'm not going to say, oh, they blew it. Oh, I screwed up. Like, it's a good pick, right? That's a good pick.
You would say that if they took Will Levis, though.
Yes, correct. I would.
Okay.
The only way I say they screw up Zay Flowers is if Christian Gonzalez is on the board.
So,
but
yeah.
I don't know. I
just
like the guy who's
love-
proven he can do it.
Every time, and they had that. It was literally like an 8-yard curl route that he ran with Patrick Mahomes. That the video got out. You watched that on replay all night last night. I did. Every time I see the Zay Flowers move, it just looks fast.
Lit some candles, dim the lights, put that on the big screen, projected your phone to the TV, cracked open some champagne.
I mirrored. You can do it over Wi-Fi now. Every time I see that guy move, it looks fast. It looks explosive. It looks quick. It looks like it's got a purpose. You know what I mean? And who else do they have like that? Nobody.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Whoever your quarterback is, he needs that guy. And you're not – okay, maybe you're getting that guy at 46. There is one guy I think the entire league, the experts, everybody's sleeping on, but you're not getting that guy after 46. There's one guy maybe.
Who?
Marvin Mims.
Yeah.
The more I watch Marvin Mims, and it's interesting. He's
definitely got the speed. I don't know if he's got the change of direction and like the gears.
I'm just talking about he does it in a different way, but I'm just talking about that explosive element, that unlocking ability.
What I love so much about Zay is how he paces the route, right? It's not he understands that you don't need to be running at 100% capacity the full route to get open.
Right.
It's actually better to run at like 70 and then turn it on to 100 when you need to.
Yeah.
And I think that type of pacing is really a rare kind of like innate feel type of thing.
Whereas for me with Mims, I think it's that similar idea that like he's always a threat, but to me he's never covered.
Yeah.
You can have two guys blanketing him. He's going to find a way to catch the football. I love that.
Yeah, he's got good body control. All right. Let's get to some of these Matt Groh tea leaves and look into these way too much, all right? So I organized these. Actually, I used your article, Alex, up on 98.5 Sports Hub.
98.5thesportshub.com.
There you go, to get all these quotes. So I'll start with corners because we were just talking about how...
No, you got to end with corners.
No, but we just talked about
No,
how...
but to get to the point, you've got... All right,
so
start with corners. It's your
I'll
show.
start... You're right. I'll start with wide receivers.
Okay.
Here was the money quote to me.
Oh, actually, I started with corners in this article. I thought I did
Yeah.
that last. All right, start with corners.
Wow,
That's my
just
own fault.
killing me.
I'll take a lap here.
I'm starting with wide receivers.
All right.
If you're looking for a guy, it's not just a first-round guy. There's a lot of good wide receivers in this draft, and there's a lot of good wide receivers in the league that weren't just first-round picks.
He's not wrong.
If you take that completely at face value, that would tell you that they don't feel like they need that receiver in the first round is in play. Right? Like that tells you that they're not going to take a receiver in the first round.
It tells you that they think the real value in this class is later on. But what is very interesting, and I've got to find the quote here, is man, I can't find it. Where did it go? The quote he had last year.
Yeah, and
right?
he told me this at the combine too, that it's a premium position and you got to be aggressive at the position.
Here, yeah, so I found it. So this was Groh a year ago at the 2021 pre-draft press conference when asked about receivers. You can't just sit around and wait. Or actually, let me start this a little earlier. Whenever teams can add an instant impact player, specifically at receiver, whenever teams can add an instant impact player, which is what these wide receivers are in the game today, they're going to do it. You can't just sit around and wait and hope to get one of these guys in the draft. You've got to be proactive about going to get one of them. And then what did he say this year, Evan?
He said, if you're looking for a guy, it's not just a first-round guy. Do you know what that tells me? I'm glad you brought that quote up because I was going here anyway.
There is juxtaposition there.
But you brought it home with the quote from last year. Bill got to him. And this even further confirms to me that Bill still don't see it that way.
So
he still doesn't see the receiver position as a position that you have to invest $20+ million in, or a first round pick in, or as one of these positions that is a overpay premium style position. Because Matt Groh last year, Matt Groh to me at the combine, and then Matt Groh this time, there's an outlier.
Right.
And it's this time.
I think, so to be fair to Matt Groh here.
Damn it, Bill.
It's a different class.
It is.
You're talking about two very different classes. In last year, I think, was a go up and get him class.
Yeah.
This year, I think, yes. Here's the thing. And there was the report from Jim Nagy. I don't remember if it was beginning of this week or last week.
Yeah, but the receivers.
There's only one receiver in this draft with the first-round grade. So if you're going to draft the guy who's not a first-round talent anyway, you might as well do it in the second or third round and not in the first round.
Sure.
There is truth to that. To me, the juxtaposition of those quotes, as much as this pains me to say, is stop talking about Jerry Jeudy. It's not happening.
Yeah.
But there is a stark difference there. But as in regards to this draft, it tells me they if there wasn't so much smoke about Zay Flowers, I would say they are out, period, done. We don't need to talk about first-round receivers.
Yeah.
There's been enough smoke with Zay, specifically in this press conference. He was very complimentary of Zay Flowers.
I was shocked by that.
Yeah. That I'm willing to kind of leave Zay on the board. But they don't like the top of this receiver class.
No.
They don't.
Zay, so he was asked directly about Zay Flowers. I should mention that context. He did not bring up Zay Flowers unprompted.
The question, I have it right here. The question was, is Zay a boundary receiver, slot receiver?
Right. He was asked directly about Zay Flowers. Obviously, there's a local tie with Zay Flowers being a BC kid.
Right.
So a lot of reporters are probably writing about the BC kid like that, and not just the Patriots and their draft interest. So he was asked directly about Zay Flowers. What I thought was interesting about his Flowers, other than him gushing about Zay Flowers for a few minutes. What I thought was interesting about his answer was about talking about slots and big receivers and smaller receivers, and how in this draft in particular, and I think this is the best way to sum up this draft, is that there is a bunch of role-playing receivers in this draft. You're either a JSN, Zay Flowers, Josh Downs, Jordan Addison slot, or Z receiver, or you're a Quentin Johnson, Cedric Tillman, Jonathan Mingo outside X receiver. There is not a ton of receivers in this draft that are either so darn good at football that you can line them up anywhere and they're going to win,
Right.
or versatile like that, right? Like there's really not that many guys like that. He mentioned that he thinks Zay can play a little bit outside. I also think that Zay can play a little bit outside, but he's going to be like 65-35 out inside outside, right? Like it's not going to be 50-50 or leaning towards outside or anything like that. So that I think is problematic for them in this draft if you really want that first round receiver, because I think they look at this class and they say all these guys are very, very pigeonholed to a role. And that is not going to be worth the first round pick. Certainly not the 14th overall pick.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're at with receivers. This is what he had to say about tackles, or the money quote I thought with the tackles.
When asked, like, what do you think of your tackle group?
Yeah, what do you think of your tackle group? We were able to add a couple players.
Riley Reef, Calvin Anderson.
Able to retain a couple players.
Connor McDermott, Yanni Kajus.
And have one holdover.
Trent Brown.
So we've got some good veterans
and he
there.
just snubbed Andrew Stuber, but that's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. So we've got some good veteran guys there. Got some good guys there. Looking forward to working with them, was the end of the quote.
They like their group.
They like their group.
And that doesn't mean they won't add a tackle, but we've said this for a couple of weeks now, Evan.
Yeah.
I don't think they think tackle's as big of a need as people on the outside do.
Neither do I. I don't think so either. I think that that's the position, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, so I'm not going back on something that I said. I think that's the position that they think the most that the coaching is going to help. I think maybe even more so than quarterback. That having Adrian Clem and having Bill O'Brien running an actual NFL protection scheme and actual NFL line calls that probably are mostly, like, let's say 95% Dante Scarnecchia's line calls, that they feel like that is going to steady that ship because they're going to be a better 5-man unit than they were last year. Not necessarily about the individual pieces of that unit, but as a group, they are going to see it clearer. And that is going to push them over the edge from being not a great group last year, not a bottom group last year either. I think a lot of people have that wrong.
They're fine.
They were fine, but they weren't up to the standard that we're used to around here, so it looked terrible. They are going to be a better group because of the coaching. And I think that they believe that too.
Yep. And so, all right, so they don't love the wide, maybe Zay Flowers, but as a whole, they don't love the first-round wide receivers. We established that.
Yep.
They like their tackle group, so whether they like those tackles or not, they might not see it as a major need, right? Even quarterbacks, he was asked about quarterbacks. We always look at quarterbacks. Don't read into that. We looked at quarterbacks when Brady was, all right, so that one's out. I don't remember if he said anything about edge, but
I don't think he was asked.
All right, whatever. So where's that leave us among the needs?
So here's the corners.
Yeah. When asked if he thinks there is a Sauce Gardner in this year's draft.
There'll be some guys, plural, some guys who we are looking at going probably around where Sauce went.
That's 4th overall.
And hopefully they can come in and have that kind of impact for their teams.
I want to go back to something he said earlier too.
Multiple corners.
I don't think, this is what he said at the beginning of that quote.
Yeah.
I don't think any of those guys are probably trying to go into the draft to be Sauce, but you've got some longer guys, some tough competitive guys. I'm not going to speak on what the Jets think of Sauce, but obviously going against them twice a year, he was drafted really high to be a good player, and he was a really good player for them. That is, that's recognizing, they added a premium corner, and things changed. And he thinks, to your point, some guys are going to go in sausage range. Sausage range. Sauce is range. The range of where Ahmad Gardner was drafted.
The ranges of Sauce.
So he went 4th. Let's call that Even if we call that top 10,
Right,
Evan,
let's say 4 to 10.
even if
Yeah.
we call that top 10, you telling me there's multiple corners they have top 10 grades on?
Yep.
I don't. 2 might go in the top 10. 2 might go before they pick. Well, 3?
I don't know.
I don't know. So if they like this corner class even more than we do, and we like it a lot,
Yeah, everybody likes it.
if they like it even more than we
They
do,
got corners coming out the freaking woodwork. In
we
this
got
class.
NFL Network scrolling behind us. I just saw Joey Porter 22nd, Deontay Banks 24th.
Yeah.
What happens when they have a top 10 grade on one of those guys and that guy's sitting there on the board of 14?
Call it in.
Call it in.
Deontay Banks. That's I've come full circle on this.
I think they're going to like Banks better than Porter.
Me too.
And those are the two guys. Gonzalez is not going to be on the board. Witherspoon, I'm really starting to think won't be.
I also don't know if I think Witherspoon isn't their guy. I think he is the way he plays.
Yeah.
But I do think that they are cognizant of the fact that they're small in that room. I do think they want to get some size.
Yeah,
in that
but I
room.
think an inch in height difference between Banks and Witherspoon.
But it's not just height; it's also the frame.
All right, that's
right?
fair.
I think
yeah.
Banks is closer to 200, like 190,
Okay,
195, and Witherspoon's like 180. I just think that I think Deontay Banks also is the type of guy that with his skill set, with his athletic ability, and with his man coverage talent, is one of those guys that you get into the room on Tuesday and you say, Banks has digs.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing everywhere else. I don't think that Witherspoon is that guy. Witherspoon to me is a playmaking corner.
Yeah.
In like the J.C. Jackson type
Ball
of
hawk.
way.
Ball hawk.
Right. But he's not a shutdown guy. He's going to give
Right.
up some plays. He gives up some plays on Illinois. I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions of any prospect in this class.
Yeah.
Is that Devin Witherspoon is this lockstep Darrelle Revis shutdown type of corner. He's not. He gives up his fair share of plays, but he makes a ton of his plays too.
Yeah.
So he's going to be one of those types of guys in the league. I think they have enough of those types. I think Jack Jones is like that. I think Marcus Jones to an extent is going to be like that just because of his size and his explosiveness.
Jalen Mills, if he plays corner, is kind of like that.
Deontay Banks is the guy, other than Christian Gonzalez. I think Joey Porter Jr., who I like, but I think Joey Porter Jr. is another one of those guys that's going to have to be in a matchup-based role. Like who's Joey Porter Jr. covering on the Miami Dolphins?
So I think that the difference is with them, they can kind of afford to do that the way they've built their room.
A little bit. But again, I come back to when they go in and they are putting up the game plan on Tuesday and Wednesday for the Dolphins. Who in Miami's arsenal is Joey Porter Jr. going up against? Because he does not have the flip and run to hang with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. He doesn't.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right? So I think the guys that Banks just checks all of the boxes. He's got the athletic traits. I think he was actually, by relative athletic score, the most athletic cornerback in this class.
Yeah.
He's got the athletic traits. He's got the physical press man ability, and he's got a shadowing corner skill set. But shadow, I mean, when Tyreek Hill runs over there, Deontay Banks runs over there. When Tyreek Hill goes over here, Deontay Banks goes with him over there. Everywhere they go, he can go. I'm beginning to really think that I still have. It's like kind of like Zay Flowers with the receivers, right? But I still have Christian Gonzalez at the top. But I think that he's going to go top 5 or 6. Like
he should be the second defensive player off the board after Will Anderson.
Yeah. And
By the way, Schefter just made it official. Patricia to the Eagles.
There you go. So I think that's where we're headed here, because I don't think that the other two guys they're going to view as quite pure shutdown type of guys. And I think that their ideal skill set would be a Gilmore, would be a Revis, would be a Law, would be somebody that just pitter patter right with them up and down the field. And I don't know if Devin Witherspoon's that guy, but based off the tea leaves, Alex, we're reading into tea leaves right now. It certainly sounds like it's going to be a really wonky scenario where the number one player on their board isn't a corner. Right? Like it's gonna have to be
I misunderstood you.
It's going to have to be something crazy
It
happening.
would be very bizarre for the top player on their board to be there at 14 not being a corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, which I tried to tell you a month ago.
See, he loves doing that to me, doesn't he? He loves telling me how right he is, and all. We'll see about Will Levis. All right.
What happened? I'm just saying.
What changed? I think that the biggest thing that changed to me,
Yeah,
was I would also say this about edge to an extent, which he wasn't asked about, which we probably should have asked him about. I think corner and edge are the two best position groups in this class, and then tight end also. But tight end is its own thing where you have to get into positional value and things like that. And I'm not sure if tight end at 14 really makes the most sense for them. But out of the positions that make the most sense for them, I think that this class is an unbelievable cornerback class.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to see another cornerback class like this.
I think they're going to break the record for the most corners to go in the first round in the modern era.
Yeah.
Which would be 6 to tie, 7 to break it.
Right.
To be nice, we both agree, when we had that big argument, we both agreed. We both said we wanted a tackle, but we thought they would take a corner. You agree? We were essentially arguing how we should do the show, not who the Patriots will take.
Oh, right,
to be fair,
right. I remember the argument. Now. That was a classic.
Yeah.
Us argument. All right, one last call, and we'll wrap it. What's up, Jerry in North Carolina?
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing today?
Hey,
good.
So, real quick, I don't think we need to draft a wide receiver in the first or second round. I think we need to trade back the first round pick for like a later first and like a third or a fourth. And then we need to go get height at wide receiver. I'm looking at Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss, 6'2", running a 4.46. And then Matt Landers from Arkansas, 6'4", running a 4.37 at 200 pounds. We get them both, and we dub them the Twin Towers.
All right, so a lot of calls. Thanks for the call, Jerry. A lot of calls today on Jonathan Mingo, who I think has become kind of the sexy mid-round
everybody
prospect
loves this guy.
like.
I don't know what I'm missing, but everybody loves this guy.
I don't think you're missing anything. I think that his speed does translate. Like, I think he's fast. He's definitely fast.
Yeah.
And he's big. And there's just not a lot of guys like that. And I think that people do look at the success of A.J. Brown coming from Ole Miss. And if you put those two side by side, like in terms of athletic profiles, they're the same person. Clearly A.J. Brown has much better tape.
Okay, but when I pointed out that the athletic profile of Bryce Ford Wheaton matches up most with Calvin Johnson, you laughed at me.
I'm still going to laugh at you. Comparing Jonathan Mingo to A.J. Brown is not exactly comparing Bryce Ford Wheaton to Calvin Johnson. Come on.
Well, if we're talking about who they match up with in terms of their physical profile, that's
maybe the
mock
greatest
draftable
is A.J.
match.
Brown maybe the greatest wide receiver of all time?
No, but my
my
point is it doesn't mean anything. The physical matching doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't.
People and that's what people see. They get all hot and bothered because last time there was like a super athletic, underrated wide receiver from Ole Miss.
Yeah.
It was A.J. Brown, and before that it was DK Metcalf. But like they're their own people. Watch tape.
I do think that Mingo's got some upside, though. I do like Mingo's film. I think one of the main things about him is that you can see on tape that his speed, like DBs care about his speed, right? Like it gets on him quickly, and they have to react to it, and it's a legitimate game speed that he has, and then he's got some ability to play out of the slot too. He's probably, out of all of the guys that we've talked about on the show, at the receiver position, and we've gone up and down the list, he probably has the most versatility out of anybody in the group because he can play X, he can play big slot, and then he also played some H-back or like move tight end type of wing alignments as well. So you can really move. I could see them convincing themselves on him because of that, because they can really move that kid around and have him play multiple spots. All right, before we wrap, Alex, because I know you got to go to do your big board. With
Falcon big board.
With
you make fun of me for that. I got them to do a segment on arm length the other day.
No, I don't make fun of you for that. I get irritated by them.
They make some good points.
That's all. They make some good points about the activity that we do every year with the draft of mock drafts and predictions and stuff like that. I told you the problem that I have with it is that they know, I know they know that a lot of their listeners get all of their takes from them, right? Like you can just hear it in people's voices that they're just regurgitating what Felger told them to say at 3 p.m., right? So when they get on the big board shtick and they know literally nothing about a player and they start reading Lindy's or whatever it is, and they start mocking it or giving opinions about it. If the Patriots go the best way to sum this up, the Patriots go ahead and draft Darnell Wright in the first round. Fine pick. Every single person that listens to Felger and Maz is they drafted another guard in the first round.
So I think that's why I do.
I know.
Where I
and
come
you
in
try.
and I explain it. And look,
try.
I do think
get
they
it.
make a good point. Like, we need to tone down the draft, the way we write draft scouting reports, because they do start to sound very rated R at a certain point. And they do make no sense. There was something about a guy's hands get flustered when they're below his waist. What does that even mean?
Yeah, no, that's weird.
So
I
respect the hell out of that, because some people do get out of control with, I'm going to sound so smart. And I'm just, he's good hands, he's bad hands. He's good against the run, he's good against the pass. He's strong, he's not. Like, just.
That's fair.
We're just trying to teach people. I don't. If your scouting report reads to the extent that the average person can't understand it, you're not actually doing what you're there to do.
Very valid point, and it's a very valid point that them throwing darts against the board is as predictive as us studying this for 4 months and doing mock drafts. I totally fair. The problem that I have again is with the fact that they can't correct themselves,
right?
Because they know nothing about the players.
That's why I'm there.
And then all these people that listen to them then have all these preconceived notions about people in the draft that are based off of nothing, like calling Darnell Wright a guard, right? Like that's the issue. But last but not least here, recency bias. You got a recency bias pick of the week, Alex?
You go first. I'm going to figure mine out.
All right. So this week I did do some interior offensive linemen.
Okay.
I didn't want to. It was really it was hard. I had to really sit down and make myself do it. But listen, interior offensive linemen are people too. Chandler Zavala.
Oh, I keep seeing people mocking this guy.
From NC State.
No.
One of my favorite guard prospects in this draft. Probably my favorite guard prospect. Power guard, thick frame, really moves people. But he also had a really good athletic profile. 9.49 on the relative athletic score database. Pretty good athlete. Give him starter potential. Very good power. Very good play strength. Just their type of guard, right? An athletic, people moving, interior lineman. Can he play center? I don't know. But I think that there is a possibility that, not in the top 100, Lord help us all, but I think there is a possibility that at some point in this draft they take an interior guy.
Oh, I think they will.
Thinking Michael Onwenu in a contract year. Right. Who the heck knows how much longer David Andrews is going to want to do this. At some point in time, they have to plan. Now, they do have Jason Hines. They do have Russie that they like at center. So maybe they feel okay there. But I think, sixth round, one of those 4 sixth-round picks that they have, if they use one of those on an interior lineman, it would be fine.
I guess I got to go with a Falcon Maz big board player, right?
Oh, boy.
Zach Pickens, South Carolina.
Okay.
Athletic defensive tackle.
Yeah.
6'4", 298, but he can, and I say defensive tackle, he can play some 3-tech, he can play some 5-tech. They'll be able to move him around. What I like is when you watch him, like if you look at his stats, you don't see much.
Right.
And they love this, right, on the defensive line. He's so good at impacting plays even when he's not the one at the football.
Yeah.
And I just think with the positional versatility, with the way he kind of reads things in front of him and understands, just the instincts, getting in the right spot and all that, he's supposed to be like a late day 2, early day 3 pick. If maybe the edge board, and I'm not saying he's an edge, but like if they want to add to their defensive front somehow, right, and the board maybe doesn't fall their way, he could be a guy they maybe move up a little bit or take maybe a little higher than expected. But I like Pickens for them.
Not a good interior defensive lineman class.
It is later.
I think that the depth in that class is pretty weak.
Oh, I think the depth is great. I don't love it at the top.
Okay, I guess whatever way
you have Ika, who I like.
Yeah.
You have Maisie Smith, who I like.
Yeah, I like Maisie Smith.
And then, I go down. So those guys are projected
I do like Kalijah Cansey, but they're not going to touch Kalijah Cansey.
Right. Okay, but all 3 of those guys are what, top 75 picks, top 50 picks.
And I think the kid from Northwestern is a DT.
Adibari. All right, so those are top 50 picks.
Yeah.
But then there's a gap.
Yeah.
And then I like Ojimo. I like Gerard Clark. I like Dante Stills. I like Jacob Slade. I like PJ Mustapher. I like DJ Dale. These are all guys you're going to go in the 200s. So I guess
Mustapher is interesting as that true nose tackle.
The type. 50 to 150, it's pretty barren. Or even I'll even say 50 to 200, it's pretty barren. It picks up again late in the draft.
So Keanu Benton, he's a decent player from Wisconsin that's got that get off and that sort of pass rush upside. And then was it Jervin from Florida?
Jervon Dexter.
Yeah. Dexter. I think that he's a player that has a chance to go in the first 75 to 100 picks of the draft. After that, we're really starting to talk about guys that are like very hyper specific to a role.
Right.
Like a guy like PJ Mustafa, who I think could be like a first down nose tackle, like a Carl Davis type. But yeah, it's not a great group. But I guess if you throw Jalen Carter in at the top, maybe it gets it a little bit better, but it's not one of the better groups in the class. I think that's not quite as bad as safety, but it's at the bottom of the draft, I would say, in terms of depth and talent. All right. Alex and I will be back next week. We're going to do another one of these, probably not on Thursday just because that's the big day, probably Tuesday or Wednesday, but we'll keep you updated on the date. But we'll have one more Patriots Catch-22 to preview the 2023 NFL Draft. Oh, yes, and we're going to have we'll be on John Rook with the playbook on Wednesday, correct? On Wednesday next week, we'll do some John Rook and the playbook and the draft and the preview and all that stuff, and we're going to get there next week. Can't believe it. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.